Once upon a time, there was a Duca who owned a village where he lived with his wife, children, and peasants in his service. Then he ran out of money, fell in love with a horses. He took her to the village. He married her and rang the bells when they made love. Their house burned down and then Duca went under the ground. We are in Gualtieri si Camminò, northern Sicily, a small village in the hills, right in front of the splendid Aeolian Islands. Here there was a Duke that every time he made love with his beloved American hostess, 35 years younger than him, he rang the bells of the family church that he had connected through a long rope to the apartment where he lived with the attractive American, right next to the castle where the ex-wife lived. And the whole village of Gualtieri si Camminò, a few kilometers lower, when they heard the bells, they had a good laugh.
Era una bellissima donna e lui è
She
venuta da
was a
noi
beautiful woman. She wasn't even 20 years old, and the Duke introduced her to the people with a stamp speech in the square.
Lei se lo ricorda il Duca?
Sì.
È vero che passava di qua con la macchina?
Do you remember the Duke?
Questa qua contava.
Yes,
Is this story true that every time he made love with his young lover, he rang the bells of the village?
yes, of course.
Good morning. Are you from Gualtieri si Camminò?
Ah, lei è di qua?
And where am I? From Rome?
Che cosa sul Duca?
But this story of the bells, is it true?
Of course it's true.
Io so che veniva
You also remember his lover?
The American, of course.
Have you ever heard the bells ringing?
Of course I heard them.
l'hostess.
Sì, la so perché l'ho letta in Germania.
He was spiteful to his wife, who lived next door, and every time he made love with the American, he rang the bells. I was in Germany in those days, and in the German newspaper it was written, "Every time I ring the bells, I make you a cornuto," which means cheated on.
Ogni volta che suono le campane ti faccio un corno.
Principe, buongiorno e piacere. Giovanni Vallone.
Sono Francesco Agliata, sono
I am Francesco Agliata. I was born in Palermo in 1919. He enjoyed telling this story of the bells. He did it in an absolute polite and in a totally cool way.
Instead, the wife, the Duchess Magda, beloved by the people, did not laugh at all. This is the bizarre story of Duca Varna, who spent his life writing poems, opening bottles of champagne, and ringing the bells of his apartment. Here we are in Si Camminò, the village of which the Duke was the owner, but that now is in shreds. Sicily is full of feudal villages, often abandoned, and around the master's house were also built the houses of the people in his service. The powerful Sicilian aristocracy took root on the island since the arrival of the Normans in the 11th century. Among castles and feudal villages, the powerful nobles ruled over the people. In the village of Si Camminò, the people worked in the fields for the Duke and sent their children to the school named after the Duke's wife, the beloved Duchess Magda. There was also a shared oven, where now we sleep in, and where the peasant women once made bread, and it's said that the Duchess Magda always put some money in the pockets of the women of the village. There was also a beautiful church, where all together nobles and peasants gathered to pray. Then everything vanished. The Duke was reduced without a penny. Today, only one person lives there, known as the mayor.
Lui è un giornalista.
He lives with Barabba, a rooster.
Quelli che siamo cresciuti qua e siamo legati qua. Che c'è? Barabba, che c'è? Che c'è?
The ones who lived here, what's the matter, Barabba? As I was saying, we are very attached to this place. Now there is no one anymore. Before it was full of people. Wait, Barabba wants a cook.
Barabba? E quella che era la moglie?
La moglie, l'amante.
Is that Barabba's wife?
Wife, lover.
Ah, but then this is an habit of this place. Wives and lovers.
Non è che voglio... Ah, mi sembrava su calava tutto in un
C'è un
colpo.
petto rosso ora, guarda, io per le persone per bere.
E come no, tutte e due.
The Duchess Magda was a special person, good to everyone.
And the American hostess Tava, do you remember her?
Yes, of course, she was beautiful, but I didn't get to know her so well. All of us children went to school there. The Duchess was a teacher.
The Duke, as mentioned, was named Giuseppe. But as a good aristocrat, he called his firstborn Carlo, and then went wild with the names of the other two wealthy children, Albereda and Guiscardo. Noble names, not like ours.
Sì, pronto?
Pronto, volevo parlare con Albereda, per favore.
È stata tutta la mia vita, ho adorato Sigomino come l'ho adorato mio padre.
I was very attached to both my father and my mother. I love them both. Sigamino has been my whole life. I know every tree, every stone. We made hay, oil, wine, breeding. It was great to live all together. My father was a very loving man.
Mio padre era un uomo molto affettuoso.
Everything was quiet and calm until one day, zack, the Duke Giuseppe Varna meets a beautiful girl, an American hostess, in a temporary stop working in Rome, where even our Duke was. She was 23 and he was 58.
Ciao. I was a photographer. And I was in Via Veneto because I had to take pictures of tourists. Everybody bothered me because I was pretty. I looked good, and I was the prey, the prey. And so I left, and I heard someone following me, and I walked faster, and I walked really fast, and I have long legs, so I walked really fast to lose this person. And I thought, oh, it's one of those papagalli who's going to bother me. And finally, he caught up to me, and I turned around saying, I don't talk, io non parlo con I papagalli, I don't talk with the papagalli. Instead, it was this handsome man, and I started laughing because everything I'd prepared to say, because my Italian was, minimal. And so I started laughing, and he took me by the arm and said, let's go have a glass of champagne. And we started laughing, and we laughed all the way through our lives, through one hell of a lot.
Giuseppe Varna was also a fine intellectual, and with Dava he draws an invincible trifecta, the magic of a poet, the elegance of a nobleman, and the passion of a Sicilian.
And so the Duke seduced me. But we just never stopped laughing. And he was so intelligent, so everything, witty, intelligent, on top of things. He knew it all. He was just like right with it. And so 35, 35, 3, 5. But it's not your age. It's how you handle it. It's how you do it. And he was, there was no problem. No problem. He was fantastic.
Tava, the beautiful hostess of plains, collapses in the arm of our Duke. Hers will be an eternal, crazy passion and love. And so, as mentioned, the two decide to move to the village of Sigamenò, in an apartment that was exactly next to the family chapel, adjacent to the castle, and they transform it into their alcove of love. They even got married. It is a story of love and passion that the two newlyweds live intensely. Tava comes and goes because of her job as a hostess, and the Duke, now maintained by his young wife, spends his days between one bar and another, not so much for drinking, but for chatting.
Ultimamente non c'aveva.
One day I asked him, "Excuse me, Duke, but how do you find yourself today driving with the car so poorly, reduced the tide with a wire?" And he said to me, "I don't care. I have already enjoyed the Maserati and the Ferrari." Yes, I really think she maintained him. This was his favorite bar. That was our table. I always offered, of course. It was a pleasure for me to talk to him.
The Duke was just a bizarre type, with the story of the bells that he rang every time that they made love. And we, 20 years later, make them ring again.
Beh, mi sono avventurato dove forse non potrei avventurarmi, anzi sicuramente. Sono proprio dove c'è la campana che il Duca faceva suonare. È tutto quasi crollato, quindi con molta attenzione ora la faccio risuonare.
But the Duke Giuseppe Varna was one of those characters that Giulio Averne's pen would have magnificently figured, and it was so that on February 21st, 1999, his apartment caught on fire with him inside, making his life an eternal tragic comical. Tava was out for work when she heard the news.
I miss him. It's going to be 20 years in February. 20 years in February since his death. And it's just, I can't believe he died on the night between 20 and 21 February. And I was in Rome, and I was on a flight going back to New York. And I tried to call, and I kept getting a busy signal. And the phone went beep, 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 beep. And I couldn't understand why. And I was getting really mad, really angry. And I asked a friend if I could use his phone. That was in the days, there were few mobile phones, and it was Sunday. And I ran to get more gettoni. And the friend said, I don't let people use my phone. I only receive calls anyway. I got to the airport, and I put the gettoni in. I bought them and tried to call, and it was busy. And I went like, something's wrong. And I couldn't understand what, because the Duke was really precise. He told me he would call me at 7 in the morning. It was before my bus left for the airport. The house burned for 12 hours. No one saw anything or heard it get real. Anyway, everything, there was nothing left. Sorry. Oh, you're making me go through these horrible memories. This was the table we would eat with. He would set a beautiful table, blue and yellow, and we would eat like this. I had my olive. Oh, this is the photograph of the entrance of our house. There, you see, there's the bell. Yeah.
And that's how Duca Varna leaves us. It is said that on the verge of dying, he threw his poems from the window in a desperate attempt to save them, adding this anecdote to his romantic life. A bit like Empedocles, the Sicilian philosopher, who threw himself into the crater of Etna and the volcano gave back to the world, erupting his famous sandals.
Oh, this is the book. This is very important. This is the book of his poetry. Oh, and I should show you this. This is the necklace where most of my jewelry was burned, melted. And so I took the pieces I had and I had it made into this pendant, and with the stem, and his ashes are there. He could do anything. He spoke the 3 languages, French, English, Italian. And he was so superior.
Beautiful, beautiful girl.
Beautiful man. He was, there. What a man.
Dai,
Sì.
Davids
Avarna.
Avarna.
Sì.
Ciao Tata, bye.
Ciao, guys.
And then, at the end of the story, the question is, do you think that the Duca Varna did well or did wrong? And above all, we hope that you want to visit the village of Sicamino, especially Sicily, everyone.